If China got to write America's foreign policy, it would sound a lot like what we just heard from AOC in Munich. Beautiful words about a global community, shared sacrifice, climate justice. Meanwhile, China would be grabbing our factories, our jobs, and our leverage, just like they've been doing for the last 40 years. In this video, I'm going to show you how we got two competing visions of Munich. One of them described the real world, and AOC's described a fantasy that plays right into the hands of our enemies. The real world vision came from Marco Rubio. He gave a pretty long speech. I would recommend going to watch the full thing, but I want to focus on something he said toward the very beginning. In this clip, he's talking about after the Cold War ended and the Berlin Wall fell.
But the euphoria of this triumph led us to a dangerous delusion that we had entered, quote, the end of history, that every nation would now be a liberal democracy, that the ties formed by trade and by commerce alone would now replace nationhood, that the rules-based global order, an overused term, would now replace the national interest, and that we would now live in a world without borders where everyone became a citizen of the world. This was a foolish idea that ignored both human nature and it ignored the lessons of over 5,000 years of recorded human history.
As you heard, Rubio came out and dismantled this idea of the rules-based order while bashing the notion that the Cold War was the end of history, as Francis Fukuyama wrote back in 1989. Rubio's core point is that both concepts ignore human nature. They just assume that if we write the rules, everyone will follow. And trust me, it goes even deeper than that, hitting on clashing global values and cultural divides. I'll unpack that soon. But many folks, like AOC, cling to this rules-based order fantasy. Let's watch what she said at the same conference, and before you do, I apologize for her making absolutely no sense here.
And so I think what we are seeking is a return to a rules-based order that eliminates the hypocrisies around when too often in the West we'd look the other way for inconvenient populations to act out these paradoxes.
Okay, let's strip away all the Kamala-esque mumbo and talk about what she wants, what she really means there. She says that she wants a return to the rules-based order without hypocrisy. What does that mean? The rules-based order is the post-World War II idea that a global system of laws and norms should guide how countries interact with each other. The pitch is simple. If we tie our economies together and agree on rules, we can reduce war and manage conflict. That's what gave us the UN, the International Monetary Fund, the World Trade Organization, and all the rest of the stuff like that. And look, the UN has maybe been a bust, but you could say that those other organizations have been a net good in the world. But people like AOC talk about them almost like a utopia. If we recommit ourselves to the rules, if we just stop being hypocrites, we'll get this clean, peaceful world order where everyone plays nice. Good luck with that. One of the major problems, really the main problem that Rubio highlighted, is that her idea of a rules-based order runs up against an ideology that some might call realism. Meaning her idea is not realistic at all. We've tried it. We've been trying this version of this for 80 years. What has happened in that time? Did the war stop? No. Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, Ukraine, Israel, none of that was prevented by this fancy, utopian talk about a new world order. Now, she might hear this and say, well, we've been hypocrites. If we just had someone other than Trump in office who wasn't a hypocrite, it would work. Just give me the power and it would finally work. But it wouldn't. Because, as Rubio said, human nature. It's human nature to undercut your enemies. It's human nature to do what is best for yourself or your country. If you see your enemies enter into an agreement, you analyze that agreement to find a way to help yourself. China has been doing that to us for years. But even more than just human nature, her vision ignores one key fact that so many people have gotten wrong over the years. Not everybody thinks the same way that we do. Not everybody places liberty at the top of their political pyramid. And it's not like it's just Democrats like AOC pushing for a world where all nations agree on how to act. The problem historically has cut across both parties. Remember Bush saying that in the heart of every human lies a desire for freedom? That was the same thought process that AOC has, and it couldn't be more wrong. In the West, we grow up assuming that freedom is the ultimate political virtue, and we project that assumption onto everyone else. I don't even really blame people for thinking that way. For most of us, the idea that someone would willingly trade liberty for something else just doesn't make sense. That's not how large parts of the world see things. Take Russia, for example. Surveys going back years show that when people are forced to pick, most say that they'd rather have a strong leader and a strong economy than the embedded uncertainty that comes with democracy. They still use the word democracy as a positive slogan, but when it comes down to a choice, national strength and stability beat political freedom almost every time. That's why Russians still honor Stalin. That's why independent polls still show that Putin has majority support in Russia. And you see a version of that in the Middle East too. In Palestine, support for terror groups like Hamas have stayed surprisingly high, even after Hamas has just devastated Gaza through idiotic wars. Polls in the last couple of years found majority support for Hamas's October 7th attack, and large numbers still believe that Hamas should rule Gaza. But Hamas is not offering freedom. Nobody believes that, not even within Gaza. What Hamas offers is a strong, militant religious identity and a promise to hurt Israel. I'm not saying that every Gazan hates freedom, but clearly a lot of people are willing to live under a movement like that. and even support it because they see those things, religious identity, revenge, resistance, as more important than freedom. The point is this: we are wrong when we assume that freedom is every culture's top priority. That's really only true in the Western tradition. It's what separates the West from the rest of the world. That's why we are morally superior than systems that worship raw power, revenge, or some sort of ethno-religious militant domination. In the non-Western world, it's national identity, order, or revenge that sit at the top of the value pyramid, not liberty. And the rules-based order that AOC wants to commit to pretends that all of those differences don't exist. It pretends that if we just put people like her in charge, all would be well. Suddenly the world would be kind, the world would be free, the world would work together to end poverty, war, sickness. It's a comforting illusion that she has. Marco Rubio sees reality, and he forces us to look that reality in the face. The question for us is whether we are willing to see it too. Thanks for sticking around. If you enjoyed this and want more honest breakdowns like this, subscribe and like the video for more. If you want to back up in case the algorithm just looks the other way, join my Substack. I'll link to it in the description and the pinned comment. If you join there, you'll get an email every time I publish something new. With that, I'll see you next time. Thank you.